Do me a favor. Stop this video right now before you continue watching the rest of the video, and I want you to ask yourself a question. What is healing? What does it mean to heal? And I want you to answer this question without looking up any definitions. Just ask yourself that question when you stop this video, and when you have your answer, resume. Healing is one of those things that's a part of all people's lives, but we conceptualize of it differently. We know that healing implies some form of positive change, but we often feel confused about what it entails and how exactly to achieve it. When it comes to our physical bodies, when we say healing, we usually conceptualize of it meaning to return to or to achieve a state of wholeness and health where we're free from illness and injury. When it comes to our emotions and mind, we usually conceptualize of it meaning to get over something so we feel good emotionally and are thinking positive thoughts. But this way of conceptualizing of healing leads to genuine confusion. It makes healing into not only an abstract concept, but it turns the process of healing into a kind of quest for the Holy Grail. Today I'm going to explain exactly what healing is at the most fundamental level of existence. By knowing this definition, by understanding what healing is, you will have the recipe for how to create it. At the most fundamental level of our universe, everything is energy. Energy is simply potential energy until different patterns arise within that energy. These patterns are what dictates whether energy ultimately becomes a toothbrush or an emotion or a tree. Patterns are like the blueprint of your physical existence. Because everything is a pattern, all forms of illness are also specific patterns, and to heal something is to change that pattern. This means the first layer to understand about healing is that to heal is to change a pattern. Changing a pattern is essentially the opposite of repetition or redundancy. So now we have to look at how to change a pattern. When something is unhealed, it is exhibiting a pattern that is unwanted. It's not in a state that we like. So to heal is to change a pattern into something that is wanted from something that is unwanted. This usually involves changing a pattern into its opposite. So the second layer to understand about healing is that to heal is to change a pattern into its opposite, or to simplify it further, to experience the opposite. Now that you understand that to heal is to change a pattern into the opposite, let's look at how this will work in several practical scenarios. If our leg is broken, to change that pattern of broken into its opposite is to put it together and mend it. If we feel demeaned, to heal is to feel valued. If we are traumatized by snakes, to heal is to form a different association with snakes so that instead of feeling negative towards them, we feel positive towards them. If we are lonely, to heal is to achieve togetherness. If we are chronically thinking that money is hard to get, to heal is to be able to think the thought that money comes easily. If we're abused, to heal is to be treated lovingly. If we feel powerless, to heal is to feel empowered. If we are stuck, to heal is to be able to move. The answer for how to heal is that simple. It's how do you get from point A to point B? For example, how do you go from being alone to being together with people? Now here's where things get complicated for people, is with physical ailments. Because most people look at a physical ailment and make it only physical, when the reality is that behind every physical ailment is an emotional and a mental root. For example, we could look at cancer and say that if cancer is abnormal cell growth and division, to heal cancer is to be free from those abnormal cells and for the body to achieve normal cell growth and division. Cancer occurs when the consciousness loses control over its own cells that make up the body. These cells cease to follow the signals that tell them what to do in the body. They go rogue. This occurs within the body because the consciousness of the individual, in fact, feels completely out of control, completely powerless. The reason that cancer, one of the main reasons I should say, that cancer is so intensely on the rise right now is because so many people are experiencing or even living in an atmosphere of feeling out of control and feeling powerless to something. However, depending on the type of cancer, what a person is feeling out of control of or powerless to is a different thing. Each body part corresponds to a different type of consciousness. For example, The stomach relates directly to our capacity to accept things. The breasts relate to responsibility and to the giving of love. The bones relate to our experience of foundation and support. Therefore, for the sake of your understanding of healing as it applies to cancer, I will greatly simplify the idea of healing cancer in this way. The real underlying cause of something like bone cancer would be feeling completely out of control and powerless to create a strong, stable foundation in your life that includes feeling support. And this is why so many people fail at cancer treatment, because when they look at cancer, they're just looking at abnormal cell growth. They're not realizing that to heal from bone cancer would be to feel empowered to create a life where you felt a strong, stable foundation that included the sensation of support. The reason that so many people say that cancer has its roots in childhood grief is because of the fact that we adopt these patterns that so often become cancer because of the powerless states where we felt out of control in our childhood. Most of us did not grow up in homes where we felt empowered. We basically just had to put up with what was. So we learned these types of ways of thinking, ways of acting, and beliefs about the world in that environment. That's where the roots of those concepts are. For example, a child growing up with parents who are either absent or living in their own realities may feel like they have no stability or support. And if this person does not find something else in their life outside mom and dad to create that experience for them, they may be at risk for bone disorders, including, if they feel totally powerless to create it, bone cancer. Yes, it's at this point that I have to acknowledge that I know when I just said that all of you who are parents or even thinking about becoming parents are probably about to have a complete collapse. Why? Because look at how many videos I've put out there that suggest the idea that all of these vibrations that we are dealing with in our adult life come from childhood. So now you're probably thinking there's no possible way to not traumatize a child into destroying their adult life, right? Yeah, I know how it feels. I'm a parent myself. Maybe in the future, I'm going to be doing a video like this, helping parents not to collapse as a result of hearing things like I just said. But this is the moment of truth. Look, even if you were managed to parent a child absolutely perfectly, which, let's face it, in today's society is not going to happen, a child opts into a life of ancestral trauma. Just by deciding upon that DNA that consciousness comes into, that sperm and that egg, they have inherited trauma. So, let yourself off the hook a tiny little bit. I'm just saying where these patterns come from for the sake of you understanding healing. To heal anything, we must experience the opposite. We must experience what is wanted instead of what is unwanted. For this reason, you can see that desire has so much to do with healing. And what does that mean? It means that healing is the premise of our life on earth, because if desire is what healing is all about, and desire is what's feeling universal expansion, it means you came here to life specifically for that. For those of you who are terrified about feeling like you're never going to heal because you don't know the answer about how to heal, the universe wants you to heal. Why? Because when you line up with what is wanted, then you are free to give rise to new desire. And it is new desire that calls universal consciousness into the expansion, into the brand new. That's what it's always looking for, being a universe that is obsessed with self-awareness. So knowing this, anytime you feel you need to heal something, but healing that thing feels abstract to you, look at the current state of whatever it is that is unhealed. Become conscious of its pattern, and from there, figure out what the opposite pattern would be. The process of healing is before you. It is the process of going from point A to point B, from the negative to the positive, from the unwanted experience to the wanted experience. Once you have figured out what the opposite experience is, so you have your point A and your point B, all your focus is put on the how and the having of it. So basically, for those of you who are feeling terrified about this, there are so many ways to do that. There are so many ways to go from point A to point B. There are so many ways to change a pattern. Every healing modality on the planet is about this. And there are so many ways to heal. That's why there are so many people who are having different modalities and different methods work for them, regardless of the fact that they are different methods. So don't fear. And now you know what healing is. Have a good week.